Well, I'm very excited to have joining me here in the studio Democratic Congressman from California, Robert Garcia. Usually it's long distance. This is much more fun. Hey, I'm going to ask you about this in a second, but quickly the news about Kamala Harris agreeing to a CNN debate October 23rd. Again, this is the debate. It will mirror the rules of the June debate that Donald Trump was singing its praises, saying he won it and he approved of everything. What's your best guess as to why Kamala Harris is doing it and your sense of whether or not Donald Trump will comply and participate?
Well, look, Vice President Harris has already said that she wants a second debate. Her team has said so. She said so within hours of the last debate. Yep. I think she wants to talk to the American people. She's ready to debate him again, but he is too scared to debate her.
You don't think he will?
I don't think he will. I mean, he should. He owes it to the public, but he won't. I mean, if you remember the first debate, he would not even look at her once. He never even glanced at her because he's a coward. He's too scared to debate her. So he should debate her. The rules will be the same as the first debate, which he agreed to against Joe Biden. So we'll see what he says. But I doubt he's going to say yes, but he absolutely should.
Okay. Let me get to your role on the Homeland Security Committee. How concerned are you about the impacts of the threats against the Haitians, what they've been doing, all of these lies that have been reported nonstop by Donald Trump and J.D. Vance, who have yet to reclaim them or say, nope, we were wrong. I mean, do you think there's any chance that Donald Trump sees some possible benefit to this?
I mean, this is just one. It's dangerous and quite bizarre what Donald Trump is doing. We just had a Homeland Security hearing this last week. We talked about this very issue. The reality is we know that his lies about immigrants eating pets, cats and dogs, is just ridiculous. The Republican governor, the Republican mayor, the city manager, even the person that initially reported the lie have all said that it's not true, yet he still continues to repeat this. And so does J.D. Vance, leaning into a story that is demonizing immigrants and causing great harm to Springfield, Ohio. There's been bomb threats. There are children that are scared to go to school. There are stores that are being closed because of Donald Trump's lies. And so why he continues to lean in on this, to me, is clear. It's xenophobia. It's the way he wants to demonize immigrants. He thinks it'll rile up his base. It's wrong, and it's not going to work.
You know, after Donald Trump faced that second attempt on his life, we're reminded that, you know, at one point after the first one, he was going to tone down the rhetoric. And yet what he's doing now is just blaming Democrats. I mean, look at these headlines here. He accuses them of ratcheting up the rhetoric, of him being a threat to democracy there. Never mind, by the way, his own frequent inflammatory remarks. How do you interpret his accusations? And do you think in this volatile political climate, it can be toned down? Again, Homeland Security, you're on the committee. You listen to the concerns out there.
You know, we all heard Donald Trump say after the assassination attempt, of course, that he was going to change his rhetoric and that the country needed to change its rhetoric. And we all agree. Political violence, of course, should be condemned against everyone. But he has not done that. In fact, he's doubled down on the absolute worst things someone can say. He has said that we're demonizing, as immigrants, the blood of this country. He's saying horrible lies of folks and women. He's sending all caps bizarre messages on his social media platform that he has. So he keeps attacking people and saying the absolute worst things you can say to rile up, I think, the worst in America: racism, xenophobia, attacks on women. And so he has shown no capacity to lead and no capacity to dial it back. And that's why we want to turn the page and elect Kamala Harris, someone that actually understands the American public, is supportive of people, and will represent everybody.
And here's another thing. One of his other big proposals is mass deportation of immigrants, right? He's going there. A new Scripps News Ipsos poll, it shows 54% of Americans support that idea, but Kamala Harris is on the campaign trail saying, no, this is not the solution. Let's take a listen to what she said.
Donald Trump and his extremist allies will keep trying to pull us backward. We all remember what they did to tear families apart. And now they have pledged to carry out the largest deportation, a mass deportation, in American history. Imagine what that would look like and what that would be. How's that going to happen? Massive raids? Massive detention camps? What are they talking about?
I mean, what are they talking about? She's outlining logistics, just how would they go about this? Why is it that Trump's message on immigration seems to resonate with some voters?
Look, it does resonate with some voters, which is really unfortunate. Donald Trump has made his career in attacking immigrants. That's what he does. That's what J.D. Vance does and the modern Republican Party. And so I'm not surprised that he's riling up the fears of folks when we know this is a country that supports immigrants. But I will add, in that same exact poll, there's also data that shows that a strong majority of this country also supports comprehensive immigration reform. And so I think the people in the American public have been clear. They believe in workers that are here to work, to be safe, to be good folks, and a pathway to citizenship for those that have earned it are all supported by a majority of the public.
Yeah. Let me ask you quickly about what you recently founded, a bipartisan YIMBY caucus on Capitol Hill. It is the opposite of NIMBY, right? Yes, in my backyard. What's that about?
Look, we're forming a bipartisan caucus in Congress to meet the challenges of the housing crisis. We know that housing is the single largest crisis in this country, and especially back home in my home state of California. And so we want to ensure that we're looking at zoning regulations, cutting the red tape, and increasing housing as much as we can across the country. We need millions of more units, and that's what this caucus is focused on.
Okay. Congressman Robert Garcia, open invitation to join me in the studio, but we'll see you long distance as well anytime. Thank you. Next.